One of the most important things with exercise or fitness or being healthy is to have fun. People will tell you, you have to do this, you have to go this place, you have to do these things to be healthy. But what I believe is one of the most important things is to have fun. So do things you enjoy, whether that be playing basketball, a certain sport, whether it be walking with friends, whether it be going for a run, or whether it be using some of the cardio equipment in the gym, on a treadmill, on an elliptical. It's about finding something that you enjoy. The American Heart Association says we should be doing 30 minutes of cardio most days of the week. Some things to be thinking about: if you ever have any questions with any of the machines, there's always instructions on there. It's better to be safe than to do it incorrectly. One of the things that we should be thinking about is our breathing. There are specific ways we can breathe, but the most important thing is that we're breathing through the exercise. We're not holding our breath. Another thing to be thinking about whenever utilizing a cardio piece or we're using a machine or free weights is our form. There are certain things that we can think about. Where our feet are. Are our feet about hip width apart? Are our knees in line with our feet? Are our hips in a neutral position? They're not leaning too far back. They're not leaning too far forward. Are we engaging our core? Are our shoulders down and at our side? Is our head in line with our spine looking forward? The thing is, whenever we're doing any exercise, it's about thinking the functionality of it, of how we'll use this in the real world, such as having our shoulders down and back when we're at our desk instead of hunched forward. There are always things that we can do where we over-engage the muscle or under-engage the muscle, so it's about how we can put our body in the most natural position to help us throughout our daily activities. Before starting any exercise routine, it's important to consult your physician to address any underlying health issues. Right here we have the treadmill, which will work on our cardiovascular fitness. It'll help our heart, help our lungs, it'll help our muscular structure. And it's a pretty simple machine to use. One of the easiest ways is when we hop on, we want to make sure that we're safe with this. So here's the clip, the safety clip to put on, and that way if we accidentally get too far away, it will disengage and it will stop so we don't hurt ourselves. The easiest way to get started here is to press this green button called Quick Start. After we hit Quick Start, it will count down and we'll start walking. They have two metal grips here which we can verify our heart rate, which will let us know how hard we're working our heart. If we want to increase the intensity, if it's a little too easy or it's a little too hard, there are a couple things we can do. We can either increase the speed by hitting the plus button on the right side that says speed, or we can increase the incline. That will increase the degree of the incline on the treadmill, which again will increase or decrease the intensity. Also, there are different programs that will vary the intensity without you having to change it. There are some descriptions over here, but usually you will click on the program that you want, whether it be program 2 through program 7, and you'll see which one feels the right intensity for you. When we're done, we'll either hit the stop button and it will stop, and we'll unclip ourselves and then we'll hop off. There are different ways to start on the treadmill, to rest on the treadmill, or to stop on the treadmill. First, to stop, we can always press that stop button. Or let's say you want to keep the treadmill running and you just need to take a quick rest. You can spread your feet on the metal posts here, and then once you're ready, then you can get back on. This cardio machine here is called an elliptical. You'll be engaging all the muscles in your legs, you'll be engaging your core, and if you're using the handles, you'll be using your upper body as well. The best way to start the elliptical machine is to start moving it. When you start moving it, that will turn the machine on. The easiest way to get it started is you can either hit the start stop, which will be like the quick start, or you can choose a program here, P1 through P12. So let's go through the easiest. We'd hit start. We can either increase the resistance against us by two ways. They have some plus or minus buttons here on the top of the handles, or they have them right in front of you. So I'm going to increase the intensity here through my hand on the handle. If we're wanting to keep track of our heart rate, to gauge how hard we're working, these metal grips here again will tell us how hard our heart's working beats per minute. We can either move forward through this, or we can move backwards, engaging the same muscles, but a little differently. The problem that I see with most exercise routines, why people don't lose weight or reach the goals that they want, is they do the same thing over and over again. So sometimes it's just about changing something simple. Instead of going forward, we could go backwards. When utilizing the elliptical and you want to use one of the programs which will increase or decrease the intensity for you on its own, you would click on one of the programs, P1 through P12. So we're going to click one here. You're going to hit start or stop. And then as you can see on the display here, it's going to show you where the levels in intensity will increase or decrease. If something's a little too hard, you can manually increase or decrease through the plus sign or the negative sign. This machine right here is called the leg extension machine. You'll be working your quadricep muscles or the tops of your thighs. The best way to be, or the most proper form, would to have your knees at this hinge access point. We want to make sure when we're utilizing this machine that we have our toes pointed up to engage those quadriceps just a little bit more. We want to have the leg pad down to lock us into position. And where your hands can be either on the handlebars here, or you can have them here, just as long as they're in a safe zone where nothing's going to get pinched or anything like that. If we want to change the weight, it's a push-pin system that you can change through here. When we're doing this exercise, we want to make sure that we're utilizing the muscles that we're intended for. The tops of our thighs are our quadriceps. So we want to make sure that we're engaging our core, we're not arching our back, we're not lifting those shoulders, but we're utilizing the muscles that were intended for this machine. When making the proper adjustments for this machine, one thing would be the weight. This is a push-pin system, so we decide where we'd like to be for that. The next adjustment, this is a spring-loaded, and this will adjust our back, which will in turn put our knee in the correct position at that hinge point. The next adjustment that we may want to make is depending if we have a good range of motion in our knee, if we can fit our legs in or not. If we can't, one way to make it a little bit easier, it's a spring-loaded, and we just pull it up. We'd sit down, and then we can make that adjustment how we need. The next adjustment would be for your legs. If you're a shorter person and it's too long, we'd pull it up. If you're a taller person and you need to put it down, we can unscrew this knob and adjust it. And the last adjustment would be a knob that we'd unscrew, and we would lock ourselves into place. Two things to consider when using any machine is to make sure that we're not banging the weights when we're utilizing it. How we do that is we want to be in control of the exercise at all times, not the exercise in control of us. So whenever we're doing any exercise, we want to make sure that we have a nice, controlled, slow tempo, whether it be 2 seconds up, hold for 1 second, and 4 seconds down. You can decide whatever tempo is good for you, but it's again making sure that you are controlling the exercise. You're not throwing it up and letting it control you. This machine right here is called the abdominal crunch machine, which will be utilizing our abdominal muscles. When utilizing this machine correctly, we want to make sure that we're not bending too far in this and overutilizing our lower back and our hip flexors. Ways that we do that is we bring our shoulders towards our hips and we bend our spine just slightly. We are coming about 25 to 35 degrees. There's a very minimal movement in this exercise to get an effective amount of work on our core muscles, those abs. There are a few adjustments when utilizing this machine. First of all, the shoulder height, the height of the seat, and then also the foot pads there, and those are just for comfort, so you can use either one. When adjusting the seat height, there's a spring-loaded pin here that we can pull in or out to adjust the seat, and then we can also screw this in to make sure the seat doesn't wobble. To adjust the shoulder height on this machine so it's not too high or too low, there's another knob here that we can turn, and we can and then turn it in to tighten it up. When utilizing this, we want to make sure that this pad is right under the shoulders, just below that collarbone there. This machine is called the back extension. It will work the muscles called the erector spinae, or basically our lower back. Things to be thinking about when we're utilizing this is to make sure that our knees have a slight bend in them. We also want to make sure that the pad is on our shoulder blades. The best place to put your hands would be across your chest. When we're pushing, we want to make sure that we're using our back and utilizing our lower back, and we want to bring our back to a straight line or either a little bit before that. We don't want to come so far back that we arch our back through that. We want to be nice and controlled through this exercise. Also, one crucial thing when utilizing this machine is to make sure our core is engaged. We have our stomach slightly drawn in so that we're not arching our back and utilizing our lower back more than it needs to be in this. This is about helping us to have correct posture, not to just work the lower back. When making adjustments on this machine, one of the ways is the feet here. This is a spring-loaded, so we can either pull up or down to put that in. Seat belt's optional. This will just be for people who are utilizing a lot of weight and they want to keep those hips down on the seat. We can also adjust the seat up or down depending on someone's height. Another adjustment is a spring-loaded adjustment to increase the range of motion that our back will go. The further back we move it, the easier it is. Further forward we move it, the harder it is, thus you have to go through a greater range of motion. And the last one is to adjust the shoulder height to fit that right on the back of our shoulder blades. This machine is called the pullover. It's going to work your lats or your back muscles and your core. Things to be thinking about when utilizing this exercise is here's a push pedal to make sure that we're not putting a lot of pressure on our rotator cuffs or the back of our arms. This will help us to get started. Bring it down and we'll let that up slowly and we'll control this exercise. Nice, good tempo. Things to be thinking about. It's easy to want to arch our back, so we want to draw that stomach in and engage that core throughout this whole exercise. We want to make sure that we're breathing a nice, good tempo. When we're done, we'll put our foot on that pedal so we don't have to put all that pressure on our shoulders again, and we let it back nice and slowly. When making adjustments on this machine, first one we can do is the seat. It's a spring-loaded. We'll pull that pin out, and we can move it up or down depending on our height. The next adjustment is the range of motion. It's a pull pin spring-loaded, and the lower the numbers that we go or the further back that these arms go, the harder it's going to be. The higher the numbers go and the closer it comes to the front of the machine, the easier it's going to be. This machine here is called the multifunctional machine, and what we'll be utilizing it for is our triceps, the back of our arms. The way that we properly do this is we're going to have our elbows at our sides, and they're not going to move. Only our forearms are going to move in this exercise. We're going to push down and just spread our arms just slightly through this. We want to make sure that we keep our shoulders down and back, and we have our core engaged through this. Again, we want to be in control of the exercise and not bang the weights, and make sure we're breathing through this. Another aspect of this multifunctional machine is we can utilize it for many parts of our arms, such as we could be doing a bicep curl here. We have our elbow locked at our side. We can do a shoulder raise, straighten our arm out. We can do an over-the-head shoulder press. We can do a side shoulder raise. So there are many movements that can be done with this. It's about finding what muscles you haven't worked yet and then adding an exercise in for that. Another handle we could use for this machine would be a dual grip here, straight bar, and that way we can use both hands in a different angle. We'll still be working the tricep. Nothing's changed. We're just recruiting the muscles differently, so we're working that muscle just a little bit differently. Here's another use for this multifunction machine, a dual hand straight bar grip. This machine here is called the lateral raise. We'll be working our shoulders and our traps. And how we use this is we have some handles here, which we'll bring out, and we'll bring our elbows to close to a 90-degree bend. And what we're doing is we're just flaring our elbows out. Also, when utilizing this machine, we want to make sure that we don't hike our shoulders up. So we want to keep those shoulders down and at our side. You're going to be working out on your own, so you want to make sure that you find your comfort zone and you don't overdo it. You want to find a good intensity so that you push yourself just good enough so that you're getting a good workout in. This machine here is called the chest press. The main muscles we're going to be working are the pecs for the chest. The assisted muscles are the delts, the shoulders, or the triceps or the back of our arm. The way that we correctly utilize this machine is first we want to make sure that our hands are at chest level. The way that we get this machine started is we have a foot pedal push here, which will help us so we don't have to put a lot of pressure on our shoulders when starting this machine. Our foot will help us get this started. We'll bring it out and we'll take our foot off. And what we're doing is when we're coming back, we're making sure that our elbows don't come too far past our body. We want to bring them to parallel with our body or just a little bit past. We're going to push out and we're going to do it at a nice controlled tempo. We want to make sure that we keep our shoulders down and we want to make sure that we're breathing through this exercise. Also, another important thing is to make sure that your core is engaged and you're not arching your back either because it's too heavy or you're doing it incorrectly. We want to have that nice neutral spine. Another variation here is we have different handle grips. We'll still be working the same muscles, but we just recruit the muscles differently, so we'll be engaging it just a little differently. When we're done, put our foot up and let it come back slowly so we don't put all that pressure on the back of our shoulders by stretching out too far. There are two adjustments on this machine, the range of motion or the seat adjustment. This machine here is called the row machine, and what we're working is our back and our rear shoulders. What we want to be thinking about when on this machine to make sure that the seat is at a good height for us, to make sure that this pad is not too far away so we're not having to reach too far, but we want to have it at a good distance so we can get a little stretch in at the end of the range of motion. We'll grab the handles, and what we're doing is we're pulling with our back and we're squeezing our shoulder blades together. Our biceps will be an assisted muscle in this, and sometimes it may feel that our biceps doing most of the work, but we want to focus on our back doing most of that pulling. There are two different grips here, and it will still be working the same muscles, just recruiting them just a little differently. One thing to be aware of is if we're using that top grip, something that I see a lot of people tend to do is they raise those shoulders. So we want to keep those shoulders down, and we want to make sure that we squeeze those shoulder blades together. When thinking about the adjustments, one thing also to think about is to make sure that our feet are behind this pad when we're utilizing this exercise. The adjustments here are to either raise the height of the seat and then also to raise the range of motion of how far we are away from the rowing apparatus. This machine here is called the lat pull machine, and what we'll be working on our lats or our back muscles through this. When we start out with this machine, the first thing we want to make sure is that the thigh pad adjustment is nice and low enough so that it locks our knees into place. The next thing is we want to stand up to make sure that we're able to grab the handles, and we'll take a seat. When we're doing this exercise, one thing that we want to be doing is we want to be pulling in front of our head. We never want to pull behind our head because it's very hard on our rotator cuffs or the back of our shoulders. We want to make sure that we're utilizing the lats through this, the back. An assisted muscle will be our biceps, again like the rows, so it may feel like our biceps are doing a lot of the work, but we want to focus on that back doing the pulling. We want to make sure that we have a neutral spine. We're not arching our back through that, but we're engaging our core and we keep our back nice and elongated and in that neutral position. There's so many different ways to work out. As you saw before, we looked at the machines, we looked at the cardio. I'm going to talk about the free weights. What's good about the free weights is we're going to have to balance more, so we're going to engage our core more. We're going to be utilizing more muscles, so in turn, utilizing more muscles, we're going to burn more calories. So I'm going to go through most of the exercises that we did through these machines, all through free weights right here. First one, we'll do a chest press. We can lay on this bench, hands at chest level, and just pushing up here. Next one, we can do a bicep curl. We're standing bicep curl right here. Same thing as we did with that machine. We can do a shoulder press, as we did over there. We can do a shoulder raise. We can do a tricep exercise called the tricep kickback, where we keep our elbows locked at our side. We can even do a squat with weights here. We don't have to use weights, but that's something else we can do. We can do a back exercise such as a row, where we're here, and we're working that back. We're working those rear delts and back again, doing a rear fly. So that's the great thing about all these machines, all these free weights of cardio equipment. There are many ways that you can get a great workout. It's about changing it up, because when we do the same thing over and over again, it gets easier, and our body needs to be challenged. So find a program that works for you, utilize it for a certain amount of time, and then switch it up. To have change in our life, we have to confuse our muscles from time to time. They get used to the same thing over and over again. So by changing your routine, changing the exercises, you're able to confuse those muscles, and you're able to work them harder, thus able to reach the goals that you're shooting for, whether it be losing weight, whether it be becoming healthier, whether it be becoming faster, stronger, whatever it is. So utilize all these aspects and have fun through the whole process. That's what this is about. It's about enjoying. It's about creating a lifestyle that we're going to do most days of the week to it becoming who you are.